A D3adly deer disease is spreading. Could it strike people? Janine Flegel reached into a black garbage bag, pulled out a severed deer head, and placed it on a folding table smeared with blood and fur. This is no one's favorite time of year, Flegel said, picking up a scalpel. It was a chilly morning, and Flegel, for the Pennsylvania Game Commission, was with a half-dozen other state scientists in a garage in the small town of Bolivar. Covered in head to toe. The formal name of the ailment is chronic wasting disease, or CWD. But its effects on more than half a century after it was first detected, the disease is now spreading rapidly. Last winter, CWD is a transmissible spongiform encephalopathy, another of which did jump species mad cow disease. In humans, both CWD and mad cow are thought to be caused by proteins that malfunction and misfold, called prions. Last year, we estimate that as many as 15,000 carcasses may have been served to people that were CWD positive, said Director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota. And what people don't, there are thought to be 8 strains of CWD, and every time one goes through an animal, Osterholm said, there's a chance it might adapt in a way that allows it to pass into humans. This threat is adding urgency to Flegel's work in Pennsylvania. On the same morning, a distinctive odor of wet fur and death loomed as Flegel sliced a deer's neck down to the last vertebrae, exposing the brainstem beneath. You core it like an. This one is a bit older, and it's started to decompose, but that's okay, Flegel said. The disease can spread from animal to animal via saliva, blood, urine, and feces, where prions build up. Inside the body, fears about CWD's threat to new species rose last year, when a decade-long study provided the first evidence the disease could develop in primates under certain conditions. Scientists said the finding was alarming because macaque DNA is very similar to our own, said a virologist at the University of Calgary and lead researcher of the, which is not yet published. But Chubb said the result, it's not really like you put it into a macaque and boom, they come down with the disease, she said. While a hunter might come in contact with a deer that has one CWD strain, Chubb's team hit the macaques with multiple strains at once to test the limits of what's possible. Even so, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has taken a better safe than sorry approach when advising hunters. We urge you to strongly consider having your animal tested if it's harvested from an area where chronic wasting disease has been found, said a CDC epidemiologist. If it tests positive, that advice might seem like it would go without saying. But Flegel said Pennsylvania and many other states now enforce restrictions on transporting deer killed in areas where CWD is established, and that's important because deer season amounts to a sort of pilgrimage for many hunters. During the for example, records show 32,000 deer were killed in such areas. Although it is not, the problem with moving diseased carcasses is that CWD prions have a remarkable ability to persist in the environment even after a carcass has been discarded and withered away, said a wildlife disease ecologist at the Cornell University College of Veterinary Medicine. In experiments, prions have remained present and infectious 2 years after a carcass decays. If CWD, they've done things with Scrappy where they actually buried brain material in the soil and dug it up 16 years later, and it still caused disease, Schuler said. While harvested deer are one danger, the disease can also be spread by moving farmed deer, either for big game hunting, breeding or petting zoos. The pathogen, executive director of the North American Deer Farmers Association, said he thinks cervid farming and CWD have been unfairly linked. Deer farms are off. Schaefer said he's more concerned about other wildlife diseases, such as West Nile virus, than CWD. As a rule, we don't eat sick animals, he said. But do I test all? Not everyone is so nonchalant. Schuler, a wildlife biologist and assistant director of conservation for the Pro Hunting Quality Deer Management Association, said he follows the CDC guidelines and recommends other hunters do the same. But he acknowledged it. Folks don't like change, that's just human nature, Ross said. And traditions are. Ross said his association educates hunters about CWD and has pledged to invest $1 million toward combating it over the next 5 years. It makes sense for hunters should care. They should care deeply. A week before the brain dissections in Bolivar, Flegel visited in Carnegie to pick up deer heads for testing. Hunters bring owner. Pajulek had provided a workstation for Flegel out back, not only because she needed room to process several barrels filled to the brim with severed heads. Many hunters are. Pajulek estimated that he had lost about 200 customers from Ohio and West Virginia in the 2018 season because of CWD restrictions. But while he said he've seen CWD wipe out processors, said Pajulek, referring to businesses that have been or due to the spread of the disease in states farther west. I know things have. Read more.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.